All right, welcome everybody. We're here for Tuesday, our Get More Transactions, and we've got a special guest with us today, James Brown, similar to the singer, right, James? But
Oh, I'm third generation, so we have the
there you
name
go.
first.
James is the co-founder of the Real Estate or the Real Home Solutions and a national rent-to-own company that is, and he's licensed there in Colorado. A lot of you guys are here from Colorado. He's also the co-host of the Mr. Rent-to-Own Home Show and a creative financing coach. And so he's going to bring some different ways for us to get some buyers in homes. Some of our buyers are having struggles these days, and so James is going to bring to us different ways, maybe things that we haven't thought about of how to be able to get some buyers into homes. So James, thanks for being with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome, thanks guys. Yeah, at the end, I've got a presentation. It's actually on EXP University, just came out last week, and it's on the YouTube channel. It's the same presentation, but I figured I'd do it live for you guys and then answer questions at the end. And then I've got some action items for you guys to help more people. So let me share my screen. One of my many. If you guys are Mac users using spaces, you understand
Yeah.
how convoluted that can get. Okay. Oh, let's go over. Do you see my screen now?
Not yet. There you go. There it is.
Okay, sometimes it takes some time. All right. So yeah, we're going to talk about rent to own and get into a lot of the details. There's a lot of misunderstandings and real reasons why people are skeptical about rent to own. So we are gonna demystify it. So let's see. Let me click. There we go. Me. Like Kathy said, I'm the co-owner of Real Home Solutions and co-host the Mr. Rent to Own Homes show, which is a good show. I co-host that with Dominic Danino. He's actually a lender, but he's also in the same space. Very knowledgeable guy. Like I always have questions and call him. So he's a good partner, and he's based in Arizona. So we do this all over the place. So not just Colorado where I'm at. I also teach a continuing education class that's very kind of similar to this for agents, so that they can understand how this works. But since we're nationwide, you don't get CE credit for that. But if you're in Colorado and want one credit, you can come back and take that and get 1 hour. Okay, so benefits for buyers with the way that we do it. They get to pick out the home, move in right away, and avoid like having to move multiple times. You know, that's the biggest benefit. They get to move in. They don't have to rent, possibly get kicked out by a landlord that's like, oh, this is a mess, especially with laws changing here in Colorado. Some landlords are like, I'm out, and they sell it, and then their renters have to move, and so it's just eliminates that. We let them make updates to the home. They've got to run it by us because we own it until they can buy it, get a loan. But as long as they're not doing anything that's not permitted or just insane, like painting rooms black or something stupid, like, they could do that. And they're locking their price in now. That's a double-edged sword, but they don't have to chase the market up. We'll talk about all that. They can gain the equity. I've got a good example of that if the market goes up, and they can walk away. So they've got an option. So the objectives here for you guys are just to learn how you can truly help those buyers that can't qualify for a loan now. Learn who can qualify for these programs, which properties are the best ones, and of course, how you guys can earn commissions. And I always like to have lenders come to this class, or they go watch the recording on YouTube. Because they can actually get 2 transactions out of this. So they love us. So if you introduce them, that's great. And then if you're gonna bring a client through this process, it's good to have the lender that you guys are working with understand how this works. Because lenders are like realtors as well. There's a lot of questions and fears over rent to own. And so knowing that upfront is really helpful. So what do you do normally with turn down clients? You know, and you can unmute if you want, but I'll just kind of go through it. Normally you put them on a follow-up campaign, right? And maybe if credit was one of the problems, and there's many reasons that credit can get thrown off, but you might send them to credit repair. Set a follow-up call and hope they come back. They may never come back, but if we can get them in a house, great. So we're helping them get on that path to home ownership. They don't have to move twice, whatever. We become their hero, like, because the bank told them no, and they feel totally dejected, right? So if we can get them in a house, they're really excited.
Where you want? Cállate, serviste.
Uh-oh. I don't understand Spanish. Speaking of Spanish, the Spanish community is actually typically a really good fit for rent to own, because a lot of them have cash businesses, landscaping business, cleaning businesses, cash businesses. They may be ITIN buyers, ITIN, not Social Security. Banks, have stricter guidelines, and so they're actually a really good fit. We'll talk more about that, like who's a good fit for this, but while I was thinking about it. And then last bullet there, you guys get paid now. What if you guys heard? I mentioned it, like there's some fears around it. Clients getting scammed. They don't end up buying or losing their money. And again, we'll have Q&A at the end, or you can just jump in if you got questions along the way. I think we only have 18 people, so. The process, let's just kind of walk through it. So first thing, if you've got a client, introduce them to a rent-to-own company. There aren't many left right now, so we're one of them. And if you have questions, even if your client doesn't fit what our program is like, I can at least give you some advice on the best direction to send them. Like I said,
I have a question, if you don't mind.
yep.
I don't want to interrupt your presentation, but I'm finding myself working with a lot of teachers, educators, because I was a school principal, and they really want help. And I'm actually going to have a home buyer seminar coming up that my current school principal, I still teach a part-time Algebra 1 course, and these teachers want to come to a seminar and kind of learn what they need to do, what they don't understand about the process. How do you find the companies for this, and how do they, is this widespread? I'm finding a lot of these educators have got school loans that they've deferred, very poor decision, and it's hurt their credit. They've got poor credit because they haven't made a significant amount of money, and so as much as we would love to think that a master's degree in education brings in money, it's not. So they're struggling. And I'm finding myself having to get them into some sort of a savings plan because they got to save for a down payment. I mean, there's some loans that offer down payments, but what would you recommend that I do? And I'm down here on the Alabama, Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah. Unfortunately, if they have to save up, we'll talk about the qualifications. It's not a good fit, so you'd have to get them on that savings plan. I wish I could solve for that and just affordability. Then that'd be a whole other story, but yeah,
Well,
both of them.
most of them are paying $2,500 to $3,000 a month in rent.
Yeah. If as long as yeah, that's a lot for down there, probably, right?
Well, it's not a lot for down here, but
Oh.
you know, that's just if you're going to rent a house, you're going to rent, you're going to pay in the 2000s at least, but
Yeah. Yeah, they've got to have some money to pay up front, similar to a down payment or more. For either there's two programs. I'll talk about that later. Hang tight. We'll get into that. But yeah, I wish I could fix that problem. Like I've got a heart for teachers. Both of my parents were teachers, so I get it. So let's get back into the process. So introduce them to a rent-own company. Like I said, reach out to me if you just want a first pass. I can tell you which direction they can go. They're going to need to be pre-qualified, I call it. So they're not qualified, with a bank, right? But we're qualifying them kind of for our pass. But we also do that in partnership with a lender. Just going through the motions to see where they're at now and what they need to do. And once we know that they're a good fit for the rent to own and they want to do it or need to do it, then we go to the next step. Let them pick out an example home. You don't have to waste any time taking them around. Just pick something out on Zillow or your KV Core website or wherever you send them. Just so we can kind of get an idea of their price range and location. Those things matter because we have to say yes to the home also. So then we're gonna get the agreement figured out kind of ahead of time. Then you guys can take them actually looking at homes, unless you already have. I mean, this happens all the time. People go out with their agent and then the lender comes back like, oh, we missed something. They're actually not qualified, So things like that happen. So you've maybe already got a house picked out. So once we've got everything kind of dialed in like that, then we or whatever rent-own company will make an offer on that house and ideally get accepted, maybe with some seller paid closing costs. Then we get the agreement signed between us and your client. And we keep you guys involved, especially if it's out of state, outside Colorado. I'm gonna have to lean on you guys. So you'll be involved in all this. But it won't be a lot of heavy lifting on the, agreement side. So ideally we get the offer accepted and then they just got the time to get their bank loan, and we stick with them too. Like I reach out every 6 months, or however often it makes sense, just to see where they're at, and usually loop in the lender again, like, hey, are you guys doing what you need to do? And there's multiple reasons why they can't get a loan and what they need to do. And then they get their loan and buy the house. So any questions on that process? Okay, oops, let's see. So ideal clients, steady income, whether it's W-2 or 1099. Like I was saying, like self-employed people, they need usually 2 years of income and tax returns. And of course, there's a lot of programs out there for those types of clients, but they don't always fit. They gotta check off all the boxes, so getting with a lender up front is good. In fact, I mean, I've had one of our, he's an EXP agent, he and his wife, they were the investor on a deal. He brought me one of his friends after we had helped a family get into a home. And he's like, hey, my buddy, he can't get a loan. And I was like, well, let's go through the process. Let's get with a lender and go, you know, do our due diligence. And the lender's like, oh, I got a program for him. So they went and got him a house. He didn't have to do rent to own. So rent to own is always a backup. It's not, you know, if we can get them, you know, in any kind of loan that works for them. Great. So back to ideal, steady income. We gotta make sure they can pay their rent. They need to have money up front, and so about 7% or more of the purchase price is kind of the low end. Now that Home Partners and Divvy, the big companies, are gone, there aren't, that I know of, any legit companies that have, you know, really low entry. I'm gonna dive into that because that's an important part of this, like who qualifies. I like them to have a little savings cushion, like not pay everything they've got up front. Just, you know, this is CYA for them and us. Just, I want to set them up for success. And whether you work with another company, these are kind of like the principles that you want to look at. And then fixable issues, you know, I've seen page after page of credit reports that's just like, ooh, that it wasn't, like, life happens to people, divorce, illness, those kinds of things, right? We're gonna look at that, the big picture, and as long as they're motivated to fix that and they can, then, you know, that's a good sign. But if they're habitually just not paying stuff just because they didn't want to, you know, we usually can see through that, right? So, and then again, we're getting with the lender, and if the lender's like, oh yeah, we can get this done in 18 months or whatever they say, I take their opinion into consideration heavily. Like, if they said no, I would run, and I do. So if they don't have any money up front, so again, like the teachers, if they just don't have that money saved up, unfortunately, this wouldn't be a solution for them. Probably just save up and get into one of those, you know, low down payment programs with the bank. They're just gonna have to wait. So if they don't have any extra money for savings, spotty job history, or no current job, high debt to income ratio, you know, things, we look at it like a lender, but we've got a little more flexibility because we're not, you know, held to these check boxes that the banks are. And again, habitual credit problems, or the lender says, nope, run away. I'm not going to be able to help them. So properties, we're just buying on the MLS. If for some reason we happen to run across something off market that we could buy that lined up, great, but that usually doesn't happen. So just anything on the MLS, they can go shopping. Ideally single family, townhomes if they're fee simple and warrantable, but ideally single family, near good schools, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, medium price range, and of course, step 2, we want to make sure it's eligible for a mortgage when they go to purchase. You know, if it's really in bad shape, and FHA is not gonna, or VA is not going to approve it, you know, once they do their inspection and their appraisal, then that's not good. So just cookie cutter homes. Those are ideal. Unqualified, again, if they're distressed, not habitable, those higher price ranges are harder to make that work. Condos, manufactured mobile homes, and kind of the reasoning behind that, just so it sinks in, is like, if we ended up with the house back, which we don't want, like we want to set everybody up so that they can buy it. If we got it back, we don't want a property that's hard to go find another rent-to-own buyer or a regular renter or sell it, you know, so. But we can be flexible. I mean, I've got some case studies where we've gone outside of that too. So just, but that's kind of a snapshot of what's ideal or not. So here's where there's a lot of confusion, like how much equity are they building? Well, how much of the rent is going to the house? So our goal is to find people that have 10% or more of the purchase price to pay up front. So they're paying that money up front. That entire amount is a full credit to them. Not like all programs are not like that. So it's just sitting there being held until they get their loan and buy it. So 10%, one of the reasons we like 10%, besides it's just some skin in the game because it's non-refundable. 10% should cover a 3.5% FHA loan or 5%, you know, conventional, plus closing costs and maybe a little extra to, you know, keep their mortgage down when they buy it. So because they're paying that up front, they're just going to pay basically, let's call it market rent, right? So in whatever market, 2,500's market rent. We're not asking them to pay more than that. That's where rent credits come in. So some programs like Divvy, which was an EXP trusted provider, I think, something like that. They had these programs where you could put 1 or 2% down. And then, but that's not enough for that 3.5% FHA loan plus closing costs. So they would make them pay more. So in this example, say rent was 3,000, make them pay 200 a month more than market rent. So they got to be able to afford that. And that 200 is being saved up for them so that when they get their loan from the bank, they've got their money for the down payment. So it's setting them up for success in the future when they get that loan. If hopefully that all makes sense. Feel free to unmic if you got questions about it while we're talking about it.
So you're saying they put the 10% down and they pay more than market rent, or
No,
they
it's an either or, yeah.
either or? Okay, that makes sense.
Versus, yep, exactly, yep. And we don't do the rent credits. We just wait for buyers that have around 10% or more. So, and it cuts out a lot of people, right? But you know, without that, it's a lot more risky for us. So
At that 10%, let's say the house was 400, so 10%, 40,000.
yeah,
Is so you hold for closing costs, and then the remainder of it is towards a down payment, or
it's however they decided to use it. So like, say they put down 10%, they don't have to put, you know, they're gonna have closing costs, but they don't have to put all of that down. Like maybe they're a VA, even though, you know, we require that up front. They might want to go get that VA loan with 0 down and just use that 10% to, you know, reduce the price of the home so that the rent's lower. So it's just kind of however they want to work it out with the lender. So what if the market goes down? That's the big fear, right? So the first thing is just extend the lease and the option period. You can do it for free or for a fee. We've done both. Ideally, we don't have to extend it, and so that's kind of to come back to working with a lender. The lender usually has the best idea of like how much time they need, and most of these are like 1 to 3 years. We've done them up to 10, but most people just need a couple years to get things straightened out. But we want to give them enough time so their back's not against the wall, but the contract has a deadline in it. So if they only need a year, we'll give them 2 or 3, and they can buy, whenever they want. They can buy, after 12 months. Ideally, if they wanted to buy earlier, we could figure something else out, something out. The problem with buying before 12 months in a day is that we get hit with short-term capital gains like a flipper, and can be a big chunk. So, but most people that do this, they need 12 months or more anyway, so it's never been an issue. But I just wanted to.
So I'm following. So this is finding houses where basically sellers are willing to be landlords or just rent, yeah, landlords, whether they're managing or y'all are managing, but they're willing to rent their house for the period of time that the buyer is going to turn around and be able to buy it. Is that how that's working?
That's a good question. I've gone down that path trying to find sellers to do that. But it's a needle in a haystack, because most people that have their property on market need to sell, right?
Right. And then they need their money. So where are these houses being found? Like what
Right on the
type of
MLS.
houses are these?
Yeah, right on the MLS. So we, as a company, are buying the house from whoever's selling on market.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So we don't have to worry about trying to convince a seller that needs the money, or maybe they don't need it, but they're just like, yeah, it eliminates that. We
So
already,
y'all are buying it and then turn around and renting it back to somebody to do the rent to own scenario.
exactly. Yep. Yep.
Okay. And then
Real.
what's your sweet spot for pricing? Like, I mean,
Median, somewhere in that median price range in your market.
in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's harder to make it work. Like if it's a jumbo loan, it's like,
Yeah.
that's,
And do y'all typically buy them for market value?
yep. As long as we can make all the numbers work. Yeah. Yep. I mean, of course, it's become more of a buyer's market. So if we can get some seller concessions back,
Yeah.
that would be great. In fact, I'm going to talk about another program where that could be a real big benefit. So
It seems to me if somebody's having trouble selling a house, this might be a potential option for them to at least pitch it to y'all to see if it could make sense for y'all to put together an offer that could make sense for the seller.
yeah, well, here's the huge thing, right? If they, every seller's concerned about having a good buyer that can close, right? Well, we're buying it, not the rent to own buyer that's,
Right.
can't even get a loan. We have to put 25% down.
Yeah.
We're pre-qualified, we're good buyers, so it's a good safe bet for them. So,
Yeah.
yep. Let's see. So again, if the market goes down, first thing, just extend the lease and the option, wait for that market to come back up. The difference in the money they pay up front might be enough for them to cover that gap. So or maybe they've got that in savings and they're willing to pay that out of pocket. It's not ideal, but it's an option. Again, it's an option to buy. They've got a lease with an option. So if the market really crashed, and they can walk away. It's possible to renegotiate terms. comes down to a business decision between us and them. And then we don't allow them to assign a contract to another buyer, like in our documents, but if they find a good qualified buyer to buy them out, we'd consider it. So not every company's gonna be as flexible and stuff. You know, there's one,
Mhm.
Home Partners is out of the market, right?
Mhm.
Well, I don't know all the reasons why they got out. Could be a shift in the market, but I have heard of some lawsuits. They didn't handle their business like maybe they should have, so that could have been part of it. So again, there's rent-to-own's been given a bad name by either big companies like that or, individuals. There's plenty of individuals that whip up contracts, go to an attorney or make it up on their own and don't really understand how this works or the ifs. Did somebody
Hey,
have a
Jay.
question?
Yeah, sorry, man. Didn't I do have two kind of long questions that you might be able to answer for the program like this. Okay, with those kind of qualifications and down payments, do you find it hard to actually find qualifying clients? Because if they're already in that kind of position, it kind of seems like they'd be pretty much apt to get a loan anyway to buy a house. So do you find it hard to find clients who qualify for this but don't qualify for home loans?
Yes, it is difficult. But like I said, like there are people, there's a lot of check boxes that the banks require. So, maybe they've had a good business, but they don't have 2 full years with the
Yeah.
business. They don't have their tax returns, things like that. That's where this comes in, they make good money. They've got some money saved up, but banks just like, oh, that it's not working. Oops.
Okay. And then second question then is in, I guess maybe in Colorado, customarily, like, how do you guys usually structure fees or commissions then? Is it usually like maybe as, okay, I found you a rental for, it's $500, but then you agree to work with me? Or are you guys as a company willing to pay a broker's fee down the road for, as either maybe a partial commission when they actually convert it over to their house?
Yep, no, you get paid up front. And so how you get paid is the buy side commission. So we're gonna put that into the contract. Say that's 3%, and then we need to do a split of that. So depending on how much work you do, like if it's out of state, I'm gonna have to have you do more work. And so we'll do basically like a referral. So you'll get the majority of that buy side commission upfront, so you don't have to wait.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's how that works.
I have a question. Hi. I have a client interested to purchase,
Yep.
but my question here is, what about if you guys purchase the house they are currently living right now?
What?
Okay, like if you have the option to buy the property that they are actually living right now, and then you rent then the house auction to buy. Is that
Oh,
possible?
like buy out whoever owns it now?
Yes.
Yeah, we could do that.
Because I can offer them that auction.
Yeah. Yeah, if they've got the money up front and, everything
Yeah,
else looks
they
okay.
do. It's a couple, and then they have their savings and I think I can give them that choice.
Yeah, let's talk. And have you got them with a lender already?
No, first I cannot work it directly because I'm a referral agent.
Oh, okay.
But it's an auction I can offer her so
Yeah.
she can work with a realtor.
Okay, great. Are they Spanish speaking?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. So I don't know if you're on
in
earlier.
Miami. In Miami.
Miami, okay. So Dominic Danino that I host the Mr. Rent to Own Home show with, he's bilingual and a lender. and really understands these programs, we could have them talk to him. Unless you want to work with a lender that you know, that any lender like will work, but I trust Dominic because he really understands the program. So I don't have to kind of train
Okay.
a lender to understand, you know, how it works. But anyway, yeah, reach out. At the end, I'll put
Okay.
my contact info in the chat.
Okay. Thank
Cool. Good questions.
Hello, this is Tracy Wiggins. I apologize. I missed quite a bit of your presentation. I had different calls to come in. So
Okay.
I was the one that put
Recorded.
comments about Divvy and, Home Partners and
Mhm.
Landis. And so you guys differ from them how? Like, I know for Divvy, I did a lot of deals for Divvy here in Georgia when I first moved. And the credit didn't have to be so high. So I don't know what your credit amount is, your required credit.
Mhm.
But this is certainly a great program for, even people like me. I used to be a full-time hairstylist, and sometimes I just wouldn't file those taxes like I should. And so
Yeah.
you have the money, you know what I mean? And the credit wasn't all the way there, but you definitely had the money. Truck drivers, I see so many people that could benefit from this. What was the minimum credit score? And when Divvy was there, they would pay a little bit more than average rent. A portion of their rent would go into a savings to assure that they would be able to buy this house. And Divvy really had a limit of like 3 years. They want you to buy it back within 3 years or you lose half your savings. How does this differ from that?
Okay. I think I've got a slide later. We talk about that, but while we're
Well,
on the
that's fine.
subject,
Fine.
yeah, and go back and watch the recording. It's in EXP University on YouTube as well.
Okay.
But I think I'm diving into a little bit more detail on this one.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so well, for the one big difference is Divvy and Home Partners are gone. So those aren't even options, right? Yeah,
Well, still here in Georgia. Are you saying they're not options in period? They just leave? Because I just sent a client to them. So I know that they're still here.
to Divvy.
Divvy is still in Georgia, yes.
Interesting. Well, I mean, both companies announced about 4 months ago that they were getting out of the business.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
I'm surprised Home Partners is not taking applications, but
I hadn't talked to them in a while. Yeah.
yeah,
But we have Trio and we also have Landis. So those different rental home companies too. So
right.
like I said, I apologize. I came in late, so I'll let you continue your presentation and come back and listen to the recording.
Okay, yeah, I think I've got a slide. I'll talk about that. And we'll have the Q&A at the end too. Are we gonna hit this, like, Kathy, just stop it right at the
We
top of the
actually
hour?
probably we need to stop probably about 5 till. I've got
Oh.
another meeting I've got to be a part of, so we're probably
Okay,
5
all right,
till.
we'll try to do this. Let's see. So, well, we're getting towards the end here. So best practices, work with a competent company. If it's like if you ran across somebody selling on their own, doing a lease option, I would get an attorney for your client to go through that with them. Or at least give me a call and I can kind of take a look at what they're being offered. We're gonna set up that plan again, working with a lender, get their opinion on it. So everybody's kind of on the same page, so we know what they need to do to get their loan. Again, I want them to have that extra savings. Just in case they got a light month or something, or two or whatever. If they need credit repair, that's super convoluted. There's a lot of reasons why credit can be off, right? But get them with a trusted credit repair specialist. I'll call out Lexington Law. They're kind of limited. They're very popular, but they don't have all the tools. And they like to get their monthly payments for that service. So, or just maybe your lender can provide some good guidance without charging anything extra. So that's usually the kind of the first thing. But if it's complicated, I can recommend one. Then again, have the contracts reviewed by a professional. In our contracts, we have a place for the buyer to have their agent or attorney sign. In Colorado, I sign on behalf of like the investing side. And then follow up. That's part of our process, is following up with the buyer and the lender, credit specialist if needed. So let's see, we are short on, well, we got what, 10 minutes? I'll crank through this. So this is actually an agent in, let me silence my phone. You're not hearing it, but it's annoying me. This was an agent. He didn't have 2 full years. He was making good money, but it just didn't have 2 years. So he actually picked out a duplex. And within 2 years, the market went up. That's where it benefited, because his price to buy in, in the future was not 20% or whatever. It had gone up in like 18 months when he bought it. And so he walked in about 60 grand extra equity. And so he was able to buy a single family home and turn that duplex into a rental. So this is like us helping agents, which is super cool. And because he'd been through the program, he became our buyer specialist out there. Because he'd been through the program and he could speak to it. So this is a deal where these folks wanted to move to a rural area. Again, not ideal, but they put 15% down. He was a contractor, so he was able to, like, go get a job anywhere kind of situation. So it wasn't like, oh, they don't have jobs when they're moving. So it's not ideal if they're moving from state to state, unless it's like a job transfer and we know that they've got the job and have the income. So this was an ITIN buyer. They're from Honduras, and this was in Florida. They just couldn't get a loan at the time, so we got them a house. Money wise, so we're just looking at these 3 things: how much money they pay up front, how much they're paying for their lease, and then the future purchase price, and just trying to find a balance for the buyer and for us on our side. So there's no algorithm, you can't really put any numbers to it. We just gotta work it out and make sure everybody's happy. Here's just an example. So like a Denver property, this is around our median price range, 550. So 10% of that would be 55 grand up front. We set these up differently, but usually, we just build in some monthly rent increases each year, like any kind of rental. And then their future purchase price, we're buying at today's price, right? And so we generally base their purchase price going up each year based on whatever market appreciation is. So Denver is around 6%. So like in your market, it might be 2%. So we want to kind of stick to whatever the market normally does. We can't predict what it's going to do, of course, right? So we're gonna have that figured out ahead of time. Everybody agrees, and it's got to appraise. So we're always thinking of that. All right, here's kind of some more of the actionable stuff. Reach out to these people that you're probably already working with, lenders, other agents on your team, in your group, credit repair companies. These are people that, might run into good clients they could send to you, builders. I get calls once in a while where somebody's picked out the finishes on a brand new home, and then the lender's like, oh, we missed something, or they did something stupid and went and bought a car, right? That happens. So we could potentially come in and buy it for them, and so they don't lose that house. And then all these others, financial planners, attorneys, insurance agents, CPAs, they're in people's business and run across situations. So if you tell them how you can help them this way, and I've got some graphics you could share. We could do some co-branding, ways to like reach out and let people know how we can help people. We talked about this. So agents, you get paid now. out of the buy side commission. We'll put that into the contract. Lenders can get paid now because they can close the loan for us, and they can get paid later when they close the loan for the client. So oftentimes it's two different lenders, but sometimes it can be the same lender. So it's a great deal for them as well. So if you tell your lenders about this, and once they get it, they're like, oh, this is awesome, And in fact, one of my coaches was a lender, and he's like, I can't help all these people. So he got into this space. So action steps: go through your database. You might find leads that you couldn't get into a home, but they might fit rent to own. Ask other agents in your office if you can work their leads. You might have a top producer that's just like, I don't want to deal with this, but you might be in a position where you're willing to go through their leads. As we know, a lot of lenders and agents have left the business. There's some leads sitting out there that you could potentially go through. You can be the go-to rent-to-own agent in your office. In fact, I have my coaching program to teach other agents how to do this. So if you're in a market outside of where I am in Colorado, and you want to make this part of your business, let me know. We could work something out, because I've got kind of a network already of a few agents in a few areas, but now that Home Partners and Divvy are out of the business, there's a huge opportunity for us, and I love it to be mostly EXP agents to kind of create this network. You can post to social media. Again, I've got some graphics you could share, just kind of stir up some things, get some conversations going. Add it to your newsletter that goes out to your clients. Again, tell your lenders about it. Maybe work your lenders' leads. And then let's see. You can share these programs again, like through your newsletter or on social media to your team. And yeah, just kind of like you can make this a niche of yours. That's how I did it. In fact, I got licensed after the fact. I got into the business, and then I'm like, I need to be licensed so I can just do regular business, but also help clients this way.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Actually, I have two questions. Your contact information, could you
Yep.
put it in the chat for us?
I will.
And number two, are you in California?
Yep, we can do it anywhere as long as we can make the numbers work.
Okay, because
Yep.
10% of the average home here is $750, and 10% is $75,000. A lot of people don't have that kind of money
Right.
up front.
Yep. I mean, no matter what market, 10% is a big chunk, but yeah, it makes it harder in California.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll look at the chat for your information. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll get in there once I'm almost through here. Let's see. You create a video about rent to own. We could do hop on a Zoom and do like a little interview kind of scenario if you wanted. We can get creative on ways to let people know how we can help. I'm already hosting this class for you guys, but if you had like a small team or wanted me to do this again for a different group, let me know. I can go through this again. Some of these companies, like I like people to have actually gone through this, or at least watched the short video on our website, so you kind of understand this. But some companies like Divvy and Home Partners require you to go through like a video series and get registered. So it's a good idea to go do that first. Little pro tip here that I do. So if you've got a listing that is kind of that cookie cutter home that might fit rent to own, go into your listing terms in the MLS and check off those things like lease purchase, owner will carry, because you may find buyers that don't qualify. They can become your buyer. Basically, you could, if they don't have an agent, double end it basically, and we'll actually buy the home from you, buy your listing. If that makes sense. Let's see. Again, let your seller know that we'd be coming in with 20% or more, or possibly a cash offer. So that we are a good buyer for your client. So tell them what you're doing. Tell them you're checking these things off. In fact, your listing agreement probably needs to have that in there. But just say, hey, I'm a creative listing agent, potentially bringing you more buyers than a regular agent would. So, yeah, and you might come up with some good rent-to-own buyer leads or investors. A lot of investors will be calling you for these too, because they're looking for those like deals where they don't have to go to a bank either, but they could become a good investor client for you. So hopefully this is getting the wheels turning for you guys. Again, listings not selling, I've got a big network of investors, creative finance type people. Maybe we can come up with something, a good solution for you. If you have sellers that have no equity, how are you doing on time, Kathy? It's 9:55 here.
Yep, I need to leave in about 1 or 2 minutes, so.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, this is recorded, so let's
Yep.
see. If you want to be an investor, let me know. Questions, go there, and I will put in the
So
chat.
there's his contact information for everybody. Let's finish with, if anybody has just one burning question that we didn't get answered,
So
let,
I just put my link to Real Home Solutions, our website. If you want, sign up as a partner. Now that you've taken this, I know you understand it. So go in and sign up. That way you'll get some alerts. And then I put a link to my page for coaching if you wanted to dive into this more. I see some stuff in the chat. I wasn't monitoring that. So reach out to me if you got any more questions. And
yeah, this is great, James. I mean, it's just like you said, it gets the wheels turning. It's just another out of the box way. And really in my career, this is how I built my career, my business in 26 years, is just always trying to know all the different ways and out of the box ideas and all of that. And so I think this program can be great for, the right client, obviously. Somebody who's got some cash, but maybe they don't have the credit yet, right? I mean, that's the ideal. So I had a quick question. If a seller has, do you have to have the buyer ready in order for you to be able to buy the house or, not a buyer, a renter ready, or a lease to own purchaser in order for you guys to go purchase a house?
Yeah, ideally we got the buyer, they're pre-qualified. We
Yeah,
let them pick out the house and then we buy it.
yeah,
We've
okay.
done it the other way around. We've taken like a long-term rental that was getting beat up and turned it into a rent tone. So we went and found buyers after the fact and put them into that long-term rental. We typically don't go just buy something on market and take the risk of it,
Yeah, I get that totally. So, I just made Tracy the host so that y'all can stay on for a couple extra minutes to just
cool.
get any final questions answered. And again, thank you so much for just sharing with us and just giving us another tool for our toolbox,
Love it. Yeah.
what our business is about. So I'm gonna go turn this over to Tracy. I'll let her be host. So
Okay.
thanks again, James. Appreciate it. Thanks, Tracy.
Welcome,
No
Ken.
problem. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I'll stay on.
Okay. So now your company is just an affiliate with EXP. Like I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I missed a lot of it, but I'm going to look at the recording. You're affiliate with EXP?
We're not an official trusted partner,
Okay.
but I just applied. I was kind of holding off. I was going to do a rebrand and I was like, I'll do that later. And then Divvy's, well, apparently they're still around, but
I had two clients that told me they're working with Divvy, and I said, okay. So I said I had to refer. In order for you to really get paid, you have to refer them as the agent, and I just did that. So I'll tell them. I said, well, I don't know if you guys. This is kind of strange because I
Yep.
believe what you're saying for sure.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, I
like
don't
if
know
you,
exactly what's going on.
yeah, if you go into Workplace,
Uh-huh.
the two Divvy, there was two Divvy groups in Workplace. They're
Uh-huh.
both like archived. So I was like, I was surprised you said you took them, and then Home Partners, they've totally shifted over. They've got another company that's taken over just to kind of sunset, the properties they already have. So, yeah, I guess in this presentation, I didn't dive into the other options. So, I'm not sure about Landis. That's East Coast mainly. Trio
Okay.
is the other big one.
Yeah, they're here in Georgia.
So
Mm-hmm.
Trio, so let me talk about that for anybody that's still on, and this is still being recorded, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah, so Trio it's like an FHA program. So 3.5% down, right? So they're basically getting an FHA loan. The downside of, and kind of the upside of how they do it, there's 6% in fees. The difference between like how, we're asking for 10% or more, right? They get 100% credit, all 10%, they get to use Trio, that 3.5% down payment, yes, they get that, but that 6% in fees, poof, that's gone. They don't get credit for that. But it's less money down, right, than the 3.5 and the 6. But the kind of back to maybe the benefit is that, especially in this market, we might be able to get some seller concessions to cover most of that 6%. So
might just work out.
kind of clear up the difference.
Okay. I like that. And then this also works for people with bankruptcy. Is that okay too, or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're gonna look at that hard, right? But
Yeah.
we're not saying no, like,
Yes.
there's reasons for stuff.
Yeah.
As long as we see that life happened, they're on their way to fixing that and clearing that BK. Sure, now a foreclosure, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so it's ideal probably for, like you said, people that have the money. They just didn't. They have the money, but they don't have their taxes done, and they still want this house. And because
Yeah.
that actually is what happened to me when I found my home. I didn't have my taxes done. No
Yeah.
judgment here, y'all. And I had to put $52,000 down. I didn't want to lose that house. I put $52,000 down, 10%. And so I just kind of went in that way. I didn't need to do rent to own. I own my home, but that was. So there are people out there that have the money, and just the situation at the time just doesn't match up. So this is a great program. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, cool.
Any other questions, guys?
Hey, I just want to make sure that I got this clear. So you buy the property, they go out, they qualify, they go out, they find the property, medium household, for the area that we live in. They find the property, and then depending on their credit, say the lender says, hey, we need, 1 year to clean up the credit. If the house currently today that you purchased is at 500,000, then they have to qualify through the lender for the 2-year price. So it would be, the 560 or whatever, 580 from their purchase price at the future date. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an official approval, but we definitely want to see that step 2 is the critical one, right? So we want to make sure they can afford it in 2 years. Maybe their income goes up, but we want to look at that, make sure that they've got the best chance of affording it then. And their rent now, we don't want, when they get their mortgage, we don't want it going up. So we're looking at today's rental price versus what their mortgage is gonna be. So they're not like, oh shoot, it's $400 more now, we can't afford it. So we gotta look into the future. So that's a great question.
Yeah, that was kind of my concern. I mean, I'm here in Utah and house prices, are like there in Colorado, they go crazy.
Yeah.
If you're doing 6% compound over 2 years or or whatever it might be. I mean, that could be the complete difference, especially we don't know what the rates are going to be or anything else like that. So,
No.
yeah, we can't do the future, but if they're renting, if they're saying, hey, I can afford a $3,200 a month, and then by the time they get there and the house is appraised so much more, and then it's fair market value, now it's, $4,200 a month, almost $1,000 more a month. And so,
Right, yeah. Well, the good thing is that they're locked in at, say, that's 6%, because I'm sure yours is a similar market to ours.
yeah,
But if it goes up, the market goes up 20% like it did in COVID, they're not paying that 20%. They're just only paying the 6% appreciation. That's why, like that example in Minnesota, that agent, he walked into 60 grand equity. He got the benefit of the market going up, but he locked in at 6 or whatever it was in Minnesota. Might have been
whatever your
45.
appreciation. So that markup appreciation is locked in when they sign the contract.
Yeah, it's legally we've got to have a that in there and an end date.
An appreciation and end date. Okay.
Yep, yep. And again, like we want to give them plenty of time, so we think they need a year. Let's give them 2, maybe 3.
Right.
Give them an option to extend. We've done that for a small fee. Just we've had people come to the end, like they didn't do what they needed to. They weren't communicating, but we gave them the ability to extend. So
ideally then for a client now is like, hey, look, I'm going to be on a salary, base on this job that I'm in and this employment that I'm in. So they would probably want to find a house that's actually, a little bit lower than what they want to afford right now, just for the appreciation coming up then.
right.
So they could maintain the same level of price.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great comment. Yeah.
That makes
It's yeah, they're not buying now, so we got to kind of maybe have a little buffer, have them reduce their expectations just so we're not putting them in a bad spot. So
I have
Yeah.
a question. You said flyers and things like that. Where can we find some that we can share on social media, or put in our buyer packets?
Do I have? Hold on. Oh, here, let me.
And do you pay cash, or you said 20% down, so you're getting conventional loans?
Yeah, we're getting loans. I mean, we have paid cash like in the Midwest where it wasn't, 500 to $1 million, like where we were able to pay cash, but we usually just put a loan on it right away. But we make a cash offer, so it's nice because we can lock it up, but we'll get a loan because leverage is a beautiful thing. So let me see. I thought I had, oops. Here, I gotta looking at my speaker notes. I guess I don't have. Never mind. Reach out to me.
Okay.
And I'll send you those graphics. And we could put if I don't have something it doesn't work. We'll make up something. In fact, what I want to do, I don't have them in Canva. Like I'm a recovering graphic designer, so I've got the full Adobe suite. But I want to put them in Canva, and then you guys could go put your logos and tweak them. But I just haven't spent the time to do that. But this might be a good opportunity to do that.
Please do.
So you had said something about becoming a partner. Is that just to find buyers, or rent to own tenants for you, or are you talking partners to invest?
I just, how like if you go to Home Partners or Divvy, you got to go through their training program, so you understand
Right, or Homeward and things like that.
So
Okay.
basically, I just consider you, since you've gone through this and have a good understanding now, I consider you a partner. But just go sign up on the website there.
Okay, cool.
In the chat, just so I've got your info and I can send you updates and keep in touch.
Awesome. I will reach out. I've got to run, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'll reach out online. Have a great day.
All right, thanks. Take care.
I want to make sure I have a question. I want to make sure that you said it starts with the buyers, not so much as like I have a listing that's been sitting. It was an investor. They totally flipped the house. They were out of California. They came to Georgia. The home is beautiful. However, it sits on a dead end street. No HOA, so the neighbor is pretty horrible. And there's a live train track on the other side, but the house is gorgeous. So they have considered, they were saying, hey, Tracy, we might have to do rent to own, a lease purchase. Would this work for them, or I have to have a buyer first? I think I heard somebody say that. So clarify for me, please.
I might have missed something there. It's just a regular listing. It's just not moving, right?
It's a regular listing, not moving, totally renovated, absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
But yeah, we can't get a buyer. We went from 435, we're down to 349, still no buyer. And we know it's the location. We know it's the location. However, people that rent, they don't care about that. You know what I mean? It may be hard to get a buyer, but the renters, I have 5 listings that are rented, and you should see the applications. I'm sorry, that are for rent, and you should see the applications. So they're out there. They're ready to rent.
Yeah.
So yeah, how would you be able to help them, or you might not be able to help them because they need a buyer first?
Yeah, what I would do, I mean, if you could go put that in the MLS, those listing terms, and potentially come up with some buyers, or just, go advertise that. We're still gonna have to come up with a reasonable price for it. Like, we don't want to overpay for it, right?
No, you wouldn't. Yeah, sure you wouldn't.
And
An appraisal is necessary for your purchase too, right? An appraisal is necessary for your purchase as well, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna have to appraise.
So we won't have to overpay. So you're saying that I need to take that home and maybe list it or advertise it as a possible lease purchase, rent to own option. Is that what you're saying? Okay, great. Okay.
Go do that, and tell your sellers you're doing that. They'll appreciate that you're kind of going above and beyond, and you might come up with some rent to own buyers. Only one can buy that house.
Okay.
So you might come up with a bunch of other leads that they might be able to go pick out a different house.
Yeah.
Maybe not that one, but at least all of a sudden you just turn that listing into some other opportunities. So.
Okay. So now I list it. I put it out there as lease to own option. I get a buyer. The buyer meets your requirements of a 620 minimum.
We don't have a minimum.
Okay.
Ideally they do have 620, but we don't have a hard number, but.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I get a buyer, they meet your qualifications, they have the money ready to go, and but they don't have taxes or whatever else keeps them from being a full buyer, but they're a great tenant or whatever. You're gonna be able to come in and buy my client's house based on everything appraising, and then that person work with you from that point on, pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That sounds good. Sounds good. Definitely need the graphics because I'm ready to go today.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. Shoot me an email or whatever.
Okay.
I'm on a workplace too. I answer my chats.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any other questions for him?
I have one more. Sorry, James.
Sure.
So if you have a buyer that's going on, he's like, hey, look, I don't, my credit's whatever, but he found a house that he negotiated, down really well. Like he bought it, maybe at a hotel price, right? Maybe 80% loan to value. So if he's able to do that, again, it just goes back to the future price is just based off of what you purchased it, right? So if he already built in that extra 15 to 20%,
I'm getting feedback.
that's weird.
I don't know if that's just you or somebody else. Suzanne's unmiked. I don't know who else is. Anyway, yeah, go for it.
Does that make sense? That was
I kind of missed.
All right. So say the house is valued at $500,000, but the buyer that I have, he's skilled negotiator. He used me, and I negotiated a house that he wanted to buy down to like 420, right? Then is the future value that they're going to purchase from you based off of their purchase price or based off of the value price that they bought it?
So
you would have to go you and your partners would go get a loan for 420 to buy it.
Yep.
It's already valued at 500. So then their future price, it would be 6% or whatever the appreciation of the 420. It wouldn't be of the 500, correct?
Yeah, they,
Okay.
if we got negotiated that lower price, great. We pass on those savings. It's not like we're we're gonna gobble that up. Like you did the hard work, so that's awesome.
Okay. Yeah,
Everybody
that was
wins.
my main.
Safer for us and great for them too. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yes, I have a question.
Hit me.
I have a family that owns they purchased a huge house, and it's a commercial. It became a commercial business and has been rent out to another family member. They've been working as a business for the last 4 or 5 years. And I wonder if there is a choice, there is an option that the actual the tenant business can purchase the property to the present owner through this loan.
So they've got a business, they're running a business out of the house.
Yeah, it's a business. It's actually a house, a huge house that they do shows. It's more like a commercial. I have to see if they have it as a commercial, but they're running a business. It's not like they're living out of the house. So it's a business, actual business.
Okay.
And
we get creative.
now the owner want to sell the house.
Yep.
But they're still using the house as a business.
Right. Like getting kicked out of their business.
So the business, if the business can rent to own.
Yep, it's possible. We've done that. We've had investors at similar kind of situation that wanted to do Airbnb with a property. It's not ideal. And the reason being, people are way less likely to stop making their payments if it's their primary residence. That's why lenders require 25% down for an investor, because they're going to keep their primary home. They're going to let that rental go. And the same kind of idea with people using that house as a business.
I don't think there is a problem to put the money down. So
okay, yeah,
because the business, I think, has create income, and I haven't seen their accounting, but for them to put down and kind of like purchase, so the owner of the business purchase the property.
yeah. Let's look at it. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have
Okay.
to get with a lender that will lend them the money in the future, and maybe they can buy it now. And not
exactly, because that would be a auction, because they have that property which they put in the market for sale by owners. Somehow they want to sell it on their own, but the price, they're stick on the price, so they're fixated in keeping the price, because they value the business and the value the history of the house, whatever. So I'm gonna give them this auction, so because the house is stuck in the market for, I mean, they're trying to sell it themselves. So it will be an auction that I can tell them, listen, try this and see, and I'm gonna try to speak to EXP how we can work that out through other, I don't know exactly, because I'm a new agent in EXP, and I'm trying to see how I fit in the company. I just been in about a week in EXP, which is
Welcome.
a new structure of selling real estate, and so I'm trying to see what I can, how can I make business and bring business to EXP.
Yeah, feel free to reach out.
Okay, so I have your number, but I'm gonna contact them and talk to EXP how I can a procedure to do this process. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your
Cool.
presentation.
You're welcome. Looking at the chat here. Oh. People wanted the graphics.
Graphics, but I think that you wanted them to email you, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you guys need to email him. But if you want to grab those two, I guess if that's not a big bother for you.
Yeah,
But
let me.
yeah, this was great. It's great information to know we have another option for our clients. And so we're grateful for your presentation and the information. I missed a little bit of it, but I'm going to catch up.
Nice. Let's
I'm going to
see.
give you a call one-on-one too, as well.
Okay, cool. Let
Okay.
me pull up my email. Actually, I'll just put this in a note before we shut this down.
Okay.
Is there just the two in here, Suzanne and Monica? Looks like that's it. I think I'm trying to remember if you sign up as a partner, I think I send an email out that has a link to that, but I'll send those two at least.
And we sign up as a partner. Just go to the Facebook group, a workplace group page, you said?
Go to this one. I'll put it back in the chat.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. All righty. All right, guys. And anything else at all before we release the call? Make sure you grab that. Okay, I do have that, Power Partners. Let's see, make sure I put that in my notes. Yes, I have it. Okay. Well, thanks again. We appreciate your time and information. This is great.
Yeah, you're welcome. Awesome. Good to be in here.
Okay, he's there for us, guys. Have a great and blessed day, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.